You have no idea how deadly radiation can be. Today, we're going to dive into a fascinating story about this mysterious, invisible energy that has captured the imagination of scientists around the world. This adventure begins in the late 19th century, an era full of incredible discoveries and a lot of innovation. So if you came to this video wanting to know how radiation can fatally affect a human being, smash that like button and join me. Back in the late 19th century, scientists were super curious about various strange phenomena that science still couldn't explain. And in this context was a German scientist named Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen, who in 1895 accidentally discovered something that would change everything. He was playing with some strange rays and noticed that they could pass through solid objects and even show what was inside them, like people's bones. He called this mysterious thing X-rays. Meanwhile, in another part of the world, the scientist Marie Curie, living in France, was investigating something she called radioactivity. She and her husband discovered that some elements, like uranium, released a super strong and invisible energy. The discovery of X-rays and radioactivity opened a new world in science, full of possibilities and also dangers. X-rays soon began to be used, mainly in medicine, to see what was happening inside people's bodies. But at first, no one really knew what this radiation could do. X-rays were used without much concern, and people had no idea of the risks of being exposed to them for a long time. Marie Curie, through her research, found two new elements that were also radioactive: polonium and radium. She even won 2 Nobel Prizes for this and helped us better understand how atoms work. However, scientists began to realize that radiation could be dangerous. Those first working with X-rays and Curie's studies started to have health problems due to radiation, like skin injuries and more serious diseases. This made everyone want to know more about radiation and how it interacts with things, especially living beings. Scientists dived headfirst into this subject, trying to understand the good and bad sides of radiation. They discovered that radiation is a type of energy that comes from somewhere and travels through the air or other things. It can be both particles and waves, which was very intriguing. Ionizing radiation, which can remove electrons from atoms, turned out to be very useful, but also quite dangerous. It can change things on a very small level, like in molecules and cells. In medicine, X-rays completely changed how doctors could diagnose and treat diseases. For the first time, they could look inside people without needing surgery, which saved many lives. But because in the beginning no one really knew how to control the amount of X-rays used, some people ended up getting hurt. This showed the importance of understanding radiation better and using it safely. The history of radiation has its sad moments and also its heroes. Many of the early researchers risked their own health and even their lives to bring this knowledge to the world. Radiation research didn't just stay in medicine. Scientists began using it to study how things are made, which helped discover a lot about atoms and the forces that hold them together. Radiation also began to be used in other areas like industry, agriculture, and even art to determine the age of things and to see if a work of art was authentic or fake. Despite all these advancements, the history of radiation is a reminder that we need to have respect and care. The energy it carries is enormous, and using it thoughtlessly can be very dangerous. As the 20th century progressed, scientists increasingly understood more about radiation and how it affects living things. They developed better ways to measure radiation and understand how it interacts with our bodies. With the advancement of studies and the realization that improper use caused serious illnesses, a new way of using radiation to treat cancer emerged. Doctors discovered they could use radiation to target cancer cells, offering great hope for many patients. But this had to be done with great care to avoid harming healthy parts of the body. Scientists also began to study how radiation affects DNA, the molecule that carries all instructions for life. They found that radiation could cause errors in DNA, which could lead to cancer. This helped establish safer rules for using radiation. They realized that radiation could affect the body in 2 ways: directly by hitting the body's molecules and indirectly by creating particles called free radicals, which can also cause damage. Scientists classified radiation into different types based on how it penetrates and affects tissues. For example, alpha particles are larger and don't go very deep, while beta particles and gamma rays are more penetrating. Protecting people from radiation became extremely important. Materials like lead and concrete began to be used to block radiation and keep people safe. And professionals dealing with radiation started using special devices to measure their exposure. Nuclear energy emerged as a new way to use radiation. It promised to be an almost infinite energy source, but it also brought risks, such as nuclear accidents and the issue of dealing with radioactive waste. Speaking of nuclear accidents, disasters like Chernobyl and Fukushima showed the world how dangerous nuclear energy can be. These accidents caused a lot of damage and made people worry about the long-term health effects of radiation. Radiation also began to be used for other things, like determining the age of ancient objects and fossils using a technique called carbon-14 dating. This helped scientists better understand the history of our planet and ancient civilizations. And so, the story of radiation doesn't end with a period, but with a comma. It continues to be an area of research full of possibilities, always guided by a commitment to safety and the pursuit of new discoveries and applications. At least that's what we hope happens. And you, what did you like most about this video? Write in the comments and tell us so we can better understand your opinion. Thanks for watching this video until the end. Subscribe to the channel and see you in the next video.